Apps and process: writing, submitting, and issuing annuity business. Let's begin this section by looking at the process behind writing and submitting annuity business. Up to this point in Basecamp, much of the focus has been on understanding how retirement strategies work and how those conversations may unfold with clients. This next section shifts our attention toward the practical side of the process. As you can see on the slide, we're moving into what happens after a retirement strategy has been discussed and evaluated. The application process is simply the step where the information from that conversation begins to be redocumented and submitted to the carrier for review. The Basecamp illustration on the right reinforces that idea. I am standing near the campsite, ready to guide the next stage of the climb. In the same way, this section of training walks through the operational steps agents may encounter when writing annuity business. While each carrier may have slightly different requirements, the overall flow tends to follow a familiar pattern. Information about the client's objectives, financial situation, and the strategy being considered is gathered and recorded in the application. Supporting details may also be included depending on the situation. From there, the case is submitted to the carrier, where it is reviewed according to the carrier's guidelines. If everything moves forward, the contract may then be issued and delivered following the carrier's process. Throughout the next several slides, we'll walk through these steps so you can have a clearer understanding of what to expect as they begin documenting and submitting annuity business. Here are some important disclosures to read over before we begin and to keep in mind throughout the presentation. Moving from education to application, transitioning the conversation. Before an application is ever introduced, it can be helpful to pause and confirm that the strategy discussed actually makes sense to the client. As the slide highlights, the transition from education into application works best when it feels like a natural continuation of the conversation, rather than a sudden shift. The first step is simply confirming alignment. After reviewing the retirement strategy together, agents may ask a straightforward question, such as, "Does this approach line up with what you were hoping to accomplish?" That brief moment of confirmation allows the client to reflect on what they've learned and may help keep the conversation collaborative. Next, it can be helpful to position the application as documentation of the strategy already reviewed, rather than introducing it as something entirely new. By this stage, the client has already discussed their goals, explored how the strategy may work, and had an opportunity to ask questions. The application simply records the details of what has been discussed. The final reminder on the slide is to keep the transition relaxed and conversational. These types of retirement strategy discussions often involve thoughtful decisions, so maintaining a steady and comfortable tone can help clients feel more at ease with the process. The illustration on the slide reflects that idea as well. You can see me sitting with a couple and reviewing information together, reinforcing that these conversations are typically part of a broader discussion around health coverage and income planning. When handled this way, moving from education into application can help make it feel like a natural next step in the conversation, rather than a separate event. At this stage of the conversation, the goal isn't to rush into paperwork. Instead, it can be helpful to first confirm that the strategy you reviewed together actually makes sense to the client. As the slide shows, a simple question can often guide that moment. Something like, "Based on what we reviewed, does this approach make sense?" can give the client an opportunity to reflect on the discussion and share any remaining thoughts or questions. This step helps keep the conversation collaborative. Rather than moving directly into an application, you're confirming that the client understands the strategy and feels comfortable with the direction of the discussion. If the client indicates that the approach aligns with their goals, the next step can be introduced in a very straightforward way. You might say something like, "If so, the next step may be completing the application together, so the details of this strategy can be documented." Positioning it this way can help keep the tone natural and conversational. The application isn't being presented as a sudden decision point. Instead, it's simply the process of recording the information you've already reviewed together. The final reminder on the slide is to confirm agreement before moving forward. Taking a moment to ensure the client feels comfortable with the direction of the conversation can help keep the process clear and steady. The illustration on the slide reflects that idea as well. You can see the path forward, marked with a sign that says "Next Step," which serves as a helpful visual reminder that the conversation is simply progressing one step at a time. When handled this way, Asking for the business doesn't need to feel like a closing technique. Instead, it can become a natural continuation of the retirement strategy conversation you've already been having together. Once the client has indicated that the retirement strategy makes sense, the next step may be beginning the application. At this point, it can help to keep the process straightforward and easy to follow. As the slide highlights, most applications begin with basic identification information. Letting the client know what to expect ahead of time can help keep the conversation relaxed and transparent. You might explain it in a simple way by saying something like, "The application usually begins with some basic information so the carrier can verify identity and ensure the details are accurate." Providing that quick explanation helps the client understand why the information is being requested. It also reinforces that the application process is simply documenting the details related to the retirement strategy you've already discussed. One of the first items often requested is the client's driver's license. Asking for this early in the process allows you to accurately capture identification details, such as name, address, and date of birth, which carriers typically use to confirm identity. The illustration on the slide reflects that step as well. You can see the client handing over a driver's license while I am ready to begin recording the information. It's a simple moment, but it represents the start of documenting the strategy that has already been reviewed. Keeping this step clear and conversational can help the application process feel organized rather than overwhelming. Clients can understand that the information is part of completing the documentation, and the conversation can continue at a comfortable pace. From here, the application process simply continues one section at a time, as the necessary information is gathered and recorded. Before going too far into the application itself, it can be helpful to understand how most annuity applications are organized. As the slide highlights, many applications tend to follow a similar structure across carriers. While the exact format may vary, the overall layout is often familiar once you've completed a few. Sections typically move step by step through the information carriers need in order to review the case. Each section of the application usually serves a specific administrative or regulatory purpose. Some areas focus on client identification, others capture financial information, and some sections document details related to the retirement strategy being considered. Understanding that structure can make the application easier to navigate. Instead of feeling like a long form, it becomes a series of smaller sections that are simply gathering the information needed to review the case. You'll also notice the reminder on the slide about skipping sections. Leaving areas incomplete can sometimes slow down the review process, since carriers may need additional information before continuing with the evaluation. Taking a few extra moments to move through the application carefully can help ensure the information is recorded clearly the first time. The illustration on the slide reflects this idea as well. You can see several directional signs pointing to different parts of the process: identity, suitability, ownership, and beneficiaries. It's a helpful visual reminder that the application is really a collection of smaller checkpoints that guide the documentation of the retirement strategy. Approaching the application one section at a time can help keep the process organized and easier for both the agent and the client to follow. As the application process begins to take shape, one of the first areas carriers review is personal identification. This section of the application gathers basic details such as the client's name, address, date of birth, and social security number. These pieces of information help the carrier confirm the client's identity and ensure the application is associated with the correct individual. You'll notice on the slide that accuracy is emphasized here. Small details like spelling, address formatting, or number entry can make a difference when the information is reviewed. Taking a moment to carefully record these details can help the application move through the review process more smoothly. This is also why many agents reference a driver's license or other identification when completing this portion of the application. Doing so can help confirm that the information being entered matches the client's official records. The illustration on the slide reflects that step. You can see the client presenting identification at a checkpoint labeled Identity Check. It's a simple visual, but it highlights the purpose of this section, confirming who the applicant is before the rest of the documentation continues. From there, the application will move into additional sections that gather financial information and document details related to the retirement strategy being considered. For now, the key takeaway is straightforward. Start with clear, accurate personal identification so the foundation of the application is properly established. Another important section of most applications focuses on the client's contact information. As the slide points out, carriers use this information to communicate with the client and to deliver important documents related to the contract. That may include policy delivery, confirmations, or other notices connected to the application. Because of that, it can be helpful to review these details carefully with the client while completing the application. This typically includes confirming the client's mailing address, email address, and phone number. Taking a moment to verify this information together helps ensure the carrier has the correct contact details on file. It also gives the client confidence that future communication will reach them at the right place. The slide also highlights the importance of double-checking spelling and numbers. Small errors, like a missed letter in an email address or a single incorrect digit in a phone number, can sometimes lead to delays in communication. The illustration on the slide reflects this step in the process. You can see the agent reviewing the contact information with the client near a small station labeled Contact Info. It's a simple reminder that this part of the application is really about confirming how the carrier will stay connected with the client moving forward. Approaching this section carefully helps keep the documentation clear and ensures the carrier has accurate information as the retirement strategy moves through the application process. As you move through the application, another section focuses on the ownership structure of the contract. This part of the application helps clarify who has control over the annuity once it is issued. As the slide highlights, the owner of the contract typically has the authority to request withdrawals, make certain changes, and update beneficiary designations according to the terms of the contract. In many situations, the owner and the annuitant may be the same person, but that isn't always the case. Depending on the client's situation, these roles can sometimes be structured differently. Because of that, it's important to review these designations carefully while completing the application. Taking a moment to confirm who will be listed as the owner and who will be listed as the annuitant can help ensure the application reflects the client's intentions accurately. The illustration on the slide reinforces this idea. You can see me as the agent and the client reviewing a map together, while a sign nearby reads, "Owner controls the path." It's a helpful visual reminder that the owner is the individual who generally controls how the contract is managed. Approaching this section carefully helps ensure the roles documented in the application align with what the client is intending as part of the retirement strategy being considered. From here, the application will continue moving through additional sections that document other important details related to the contract. As the application continues, another section focuses on annuitant information. The annuitant is the individual whose life is used when certain calculations are made within the annuity contract. In other words, the annuitant's age and life expectancy are often part of how the carrier evaluates certain features of the contract. As the slide notes, in many cases the annuitant and the owner may be the same person. However, depending on the situation, they can also be different individuals. Because of that possibility, it's important to confirm that the correct person is listed in this role when completing the application. Taking a moment to review this designation with the client can help ensure the information recorded matches the retirement strategy that has been discussed. The illustration on the slide reflects this idea as well. You can see me and an annuitant walking along a path labeled Annuitant Path, which serves as a reminder that the annuitant represents the life tied to certain contract calculations. While this section of the application is usually straightforward, accuracy is still important. Carefully confirming names, dates of birth, and roles can help ensure the documentation reflects the client's intentions. As you continue through the application, one section that deserves careful attention is the beneficiary designation. This part of the application determines who may receive the contract value according to the terms of the annuity if the owner passes away. Because of that, it's often considered one of the most important sections of the entire application. As the slide highlights, it can be helpful to take a moment and review this section carefully with the client before completing it. Beneficiary designations can sometimes involve family considerations, and clients may want to think through how they would like those instructions documented. In some cases, clients may already have a clear idea of who they want to name. In other situations, they may want to briefly discuss the options before making a final decision. That's why the slide also reminds agents not to rush this step. Allowing time for a thoughtful review can help ensure the names and details recorded in the application reflect the client's intentions. Approaching the beneficiary section with care helps ensure the information is recorded clearly and aligns with what the client intends as part of the overall retirement strategy. Continuing with the beneficiary section, the next area focuses on primary beneficiaries. Primary beneficiaries are the individuals who are first in line to receive the contract value, according to the terms of the annuity, if the owner passes away. Because of that, this section helps document who the client would like listed as the initial recipients. As the slide highlights, clients are not limited to naming just one person. In many cases, multiple primary beneficiaries can be listed, and the contract value may be divided among them using percentage allocations. For example, a client might choose to list 2 beneficiaries and assign each person 50%. Others may choose a different combination depending on their personal situation. One important detail to remember is that the percentages listed for primary beneficiaries must total 100%. Taking a moment to double-check those numbers during the application can help ensure the information is recorded correctly. The illustration on the slide reflects this idea as well. You can see 2 individuals standing at a fork in the path with signs showing 50% assigned to each direction. It's a simple visual reminder that the contract value may be divided among multiple primary beneficiaries when percentages are used. Walking through this section carefully with the client helps confirm that the names, relationships, and percentage allocations match what the client intends as part of the overall retirement strategy being documented. After identifying the primary beneficiaries, the application will usually include a section for contingent beneficiaries. Contingent beneficiaries are sometimes referred to as backup beneficiaries. As the slide explains, these individuals may receive the contract value if the primary beneficiaries are no longer living at the time the benefit becomes payable. This section essentially helps create another layer of planning within the beneficiary structure. While the primary beneficiaries remain first in line, the contingent beneficiaries provide direction for where the contract value may go if circumstances change. Because of that, it can be helpful to review this section with the client, rather than leaving it blank. Even though contingent beneficiaries are sometimes overlooked, documenting them can help clarify the client's intentions within the contract. Just like with primary beneficiaries, clients may choose to list 1 or more contingent beneficiaries and assign percentage allocations if the carrier allows it. When percentages are used, those allocations typically need to total 100% within that category. The illustration on the slide reflects this concept. You can see the path continuing toward a sign labeled Contingent Beneficiaries, again showing percentage markers along the way. It's a reminder that this part of the application provides an additional direction for how the contract value may be distributed. Taking a moment to review both primary and contingent beneficiaries can help ensure the application clearly documents the client's wishes as part of the retirement strategy being recorded. As we wrap up the beneficiary section of the application, it's worth taking a moment to focus on accuracy. Beneficiary designations play an important role in documenting who may receive the contract value according to the terms of the annuity. Because of that, confirming the details recorded in this section can be an important final step before moving forward. As the slide highlights, it can be helpful to carefully review spelling, listed relationships, and percentage allocations with the client. Small details, like a misspelled name or an incorrect percentage, may create confusion later if the information doesn't match the client's intentions. Taking a few extra moments during the application can help ensure everything is recorded clearly. Another helpful practice is encouraging clients to review their beneficiary designations periodically. Over time, life events such as marriages, new family members, or other personal changes may lead clients to update their beneficiary choices. The illustration on the slide reflects that idea as well. You can see me as the agent reviewing the beneficiary page closely with a magnifying glass, reinforcing the idea that this section deserves careful attention. In the end, the goal here is straightforward: making sure the beneficiary information is recorded accurately, so the contract documentation reflects what the client intends as part of the retirement strategy being considered. As the application continues, you'll come across a section focused on suitability review questions. These questions are included in most annuity applications because they help carriers understand the client's financial background and the context surrounding the retirement strategy being considered. As the slide highlights, this section gathers information that may help determine whether the annuity aligns with the client's stated goals, time horizon, and financial situation. That's why it's important to walk through these questions with the client carefully, rather than rushing through them. Carriers often review details such as financial experience, available resources, and the client's overall objectives. This information helps provide a clearer picture of how the annuity fits within the broader financial discussion that has taken place. Because of that, it's helpful to encourage clients to answer these questions openly and accurately. The goal of this section is simply to document relevant information so the carrier can review the application based on the details provided. The illustration on the slide reflects that process as well. You can see the agent sitting with the client and reviewing several questions together near a sign labeled Suitability Check. It's a reminder that this step is really about understanding the client's situation and documenting the conversation that has already taken place. Approaching this section thoughtfully can help ensure the information recorded in the application clearly reflects the client's financial picture and the retirement strategy being evaluated. Another section you'll typically see in an annuity application focuses on the client's financial background. As the slide highlights, this part of the application gathers general estimates related to income, assets, and overall net worth. Carriers use this information as part of their review process to better understand the client's financial resources and the context surrounding the retirement strategy being considered. When working through this section with a client, it can be helpful to explain that these questions are simply intended to provide a broader picture of their financial situation. The goal is not to capture every detail down to the last dollar, but rather to document reasonable estimates that reflect the client's overall financial position. Providing realistic and thoughtful estimates helps ensure the information recorded in the application reflects the client's situation accurately. That information may then be reviewed alongside other details already discussed during the retirement strategy conversation. The illustration on the slide reflects this step in the process as well. You can see me as the agent and client reviewing items labeled Income, Assets, and Savings. It's a visual reminder that this section is about understanding the resources a client may have available as part of their broader financial picture. Taking a moment to walk through these questions clearly helps ensure the application captures the information carriers typically review when evaluating the documentation submitted with the retirement strategy. As the application continues, you'll also see a section that focuses on the client's investment objectives. This part of the application helps document what the client is hoping to accomplish with the financial strategy being considered. As the slide shows, common objectives may include things like generating income, seeking a level of principal protection, or focusing on growth potential. These selections help give the carrier additional context when reviewing the application. They connect the information gathered earlier, such as financial background and resources, with the goals the client has discussed during the retirement strategy conversation. When completing this section, it can be helpful to pause and confirm which objective best reflects the discussion that has already taken place. Rather than selecting an option quickly, a short review with the client can help ensure the response aligns with what they've shared about their priorities. The illustration on the slide reflects that idea as well. You can see two individuals standing at a fork in the path, with signs pointing toward income, protection, and growth. It's a reminder that clients may approach financial decisions with different priorities, and the application simply records which direction best represents their goals. Taking a moment to choose these responses carefully can help ensure the documentation reflects the client's objectives as part of the retirement strategy being considered. Another section of the application focuses on identifying the source of the funds being used for the annuity. As the slide highlights, carriers typically ask clients to disclose where the money for the annuity is coming from. This helps document the origin of the funds and provides additional context during the carrier's review of the application. Common examples may include personal savings, certificates of deposit, brokerage accounts, or funds from another retirement account. When completing this section with a client, it can be helpful to clearly identify the specific account or type of asset that will be used. Many carriers will also request a recent statement from the account where the funds are coming from. Providing that documentation can help confirm the source and the amount being transferred, which may assist the carrier as they review the application. The illustration on the slide reflects this idea as well. You can see different options labeled savings, CDs, and retirement accounts, which represent some of the common sources clients may use when funding an annuity. Taking a moment to document the source of funds clearly and gathering the appropriate statement when needed can help keep the application process moving smoothly as the retirement strategy moves forward for carrier review. As the application continues, another section you'll often see involves transfer or rollover instructions. This part of the application is used when funds are being moved from an existing financial institution into the annuity being applied for. Rather than the client withdrawing the funds directly, the transfer form authorizes the institutions involved to handle the movement of funds. As the slide highlights, accuracy in this section is important. The application will usually ask for details, such as the name of the current financial institution, the account number, and the type of account where the funds are currently held. Providing these details carefully can help the transfer request move through the process more efficiently. Even small errors, like an incorrect account number or institution name, may slow things down if the receiving company needs to request clarification. In many cases, carriers may also request a recent account statement from the existing account. That document can help confirm the account information and support the transfer request being submitted with the application. The illustration on the slide reflects this step as well. You can see two individuals crossing a bridge labeled from old account to new annuity. It's a simple visual that represents the process of moving funds from one account to another as part of documenting the retirement strategy. Taking a moment to verify these details during the application can help ensure the transfer instructions are clear as the case moves forward for review. As the application and transfer paperwork are completed, it can be helpful to spend a moment discussing timeline expectations with the client. When funds are moving from one financial institution to another, the process may take some time. As the slide highlights, transfers between institutions can sometimes take several days, or even a few weeks, depending on the companies involved and the type of account being transferred. Processing timelines can vary because more than one organization may be involved. The releasing institution needs to process the transfer request, and the receiving carrier also reviews the application and documentation once everything is submitted. Because of that, setting clear expectations early in the conversation can help prevent confusion later. Letting clients know that the process may take a little time helps them understand that several steps may occur behind the scenes before the contract is finalized. The illustration on the slide reflects this idea as well. You can see several scenes representing different stages along the journey: short-term, mid-term, and longer-term steps leading toward the final destination. It's a reminder that the process often moves forward in stages rather than all at once. Taking a moment to explain this timeline can help clients feel more comfortable with what to expect as their retirement strategy moves through the application and transfer process. As you move further into the application, you'll usually come across a section focused on product disclosures. These pages are designed to summarize important details about the annuity contract. As the slide highlights, disclosures often outline items such as surrender schedules, key provisions, and other contract features that the client should be aware of. The purpose of this section is to help clients understand how the annuity works and what to expect once the contract is issued. Because of that, it's helpful to take a moment to review these pages together rather than simply moving past them. Many carriers include these disclosures so clients have a clear overview of the contract terms being considered as part of the retirement strategy discussion. You'll also notice the reminder on the slide not to skip these sections. Even though they may appear routine within the application, they contain information that helps explain how the contract functions and what guidelines apply. The illustration on the slide reflects this idea as well. You can see a trail sign labeled Trail Rules and Safety, which serves as a helpful visual reminder that disclosures act much like trail guidelines. They help outline how the path ahead works. Walking through this section briefly with the client can help ensure they understand the key points of the contract before the application continues to the next steps. As the application process continues, it's also helpful to pause and review a few key features of the annuity contract with the client. As the slide highlights, this often includes discussing items such as the surrender schedule, available riders, and the general timeframe associated with the contract. These elements help provide additional clarity about how the annuity works once it is issued. For example, the surrender schedule outlines the period of time during which certain withdrawal charges may apply. Riders, when available, may offer additional features that can be added to the contract depending on the product design. It's also important to remember that features can vary by carrier and by product. Because of that, reviewing the specific details associated with the annuity being considered can help ensure the client understands how that particular contract is structured. The illustration on the slide reflects this moment in the conversation. You can see a guide pointing toward signs labeled Surrender, Riders, and Timeframes. It's a reminder that these features represent important checkpoints along the path of understanding how the contract works. Encouraging questions during this part of the discussion can also be helpful. Giving clients the opportunity to ask about the contract features allows them to better understand the details being documented as part of the retirement strategy being considered. Taking a few minutes to review these elements can help keep the process transparent and ensures the client has a clear understanding of the contract before moving forward. As the application moves toward completion, you'll usually reach a section where the client is asked to acknowledge the product disclosures. This step allows the client to confirm that the disclosure pages were reviewed and that the key contract details were presented as part of the discussion. As the slide highlights, these acknowledgments are typically documented through the client's signature within the application. The purpose here is fairly straightforward. The signatures record that the disclosures were provided and that the client had an opportunity to review the information related to the annuity contract. Before asking for a signature, it can be helpful to pause and make sure the client feels comfortable with the information that has been presented. A quick review of the disclosure section gives the client another opportunity to ask questions if anything needs clarification. The illustration on the slide reflects this step as well. You can see the client signing a trail register before continuing forward. It's a simple visual reminder that this stage of the process is about confirming the information reviewed along the way. Taking a moment to walk through these acknowledgments carefully can help ensure the application clearly documents that the disclosure information was presented and reviewed before the process moves to the final steps. As the application process continues, you may also encounter a section called the Insurance-Only Disclosure. This disclosure explains the role of the agent in the transaction. As the slide highlights, the form confirms that the agent is acting as a licensed insurance professional when presenting the annuity. It also explains that compensation related to the annuity may be paid by the insurance carrier. This information is included so clients understand how the transaction is structured and how the insurance professional is compensated for their role. The purpose of this disclosure is simply to provide transparency. It gives clients an opportunity to review how the insurance relationship works before the application is finalized. As with other sections of the application, it's helpful to briefly review the disclosure with the client before asking for a signature. This allows the client to understand what the form represents and ask questions if they would like additional clarification. The illustration on the slide reflects this moment in the process. You can see me as the agent and a client reviewing a document together at the table before moving forward. It's a reminder that disclosures are part of making sure the information being documented is clearly presented. Taking a moment to review this form can help ensure the client understands the disclosure before the final signatures are completed as part of the retirement strategy documentation. As the application process continues, another disclosure you may see is the agent role disclosure. This section helps clarify the capacity in which the agent is working during the conversation. As the slide highlights, the agent is acting as a licensed insurance professional when discussing and presenting annuity products. Annuities are insurance products and are regulated within the insurance industry. Because of that, this disclosure helps explain the role the agent plays when helping clients evaluate an annuity as part of a broader retirement strategy discussion. Reviewing this disclosure with the client helps provide clarity about that relationship. It reinforces that the discussion is taking place within the context of insurance products and the guidelines that apply to them. As with the other disclosure sections in the application, it can be helpful to briefly walk through the form before signatures are completed. This gives the client the opportunity to understand what the document represents and ask any questions if needed. The illustration on the slide reflects this idea as well. You can see the sign labeled Insurance Professional Role, which serves as a reminder that this part of the process simply explains the role the agent is serving during the conversation. Taking a moment to review this disclosure can help ensure the client understands the agent's role as the application continues toward the final documentation steps. As the application process continues, you may also see a section called the Client Suitability Acknowledgement. This part of the application allows the client to confirm that the information provided throughout the form is accurate to the best of their knowledge. As the slide highlights, the carrier relies on the information documented in the application when reviewing the case. That includes details related to the client's financial background, objectives, and other responses that were recorded during the suitability questions earlier in the process. By signing this section, the client is acknowledging that the information provided reflects their understanding of their financial situation and the retirement strategy that was discussed. It can be helpful to briefly explain this step before asking for a signature. Letting the client know that this section confirms the information they've shared helps keep the process clear and transparent. The illustration on the slide reflects that moment as well. You can see the client reviewing the form, while me as the agent stands nearby, reinforcing that the client is taking a moment to confirm the information before moving forward. Taking a moment to review this acknowledgement can help ensure the application accurately reflects the details provided as the documentation process continues toward the final steps. Once the application and supporting documents are completed, the next step is submitting the case to the insurance carrier. As the slide highlights, the completed application is sent to the carrier, so their internal review process can begin. This submission typically includes the application itself, along with any required supporting documents, such as transfer forms or account statements if funds are being moved from another institution. After the case is received, the carrier reviews the information that was provided in the application. This review helps confirm that the documentation is complete and that the details recorded throughout the process are consistent with the information submitted. In some situations, the carrier may reach out if additional clarification or documentation is needed. When that happens, responding promptly can help keep the case moving through the review process. The illustration on the slide reflects this step along the Basecamp trail. You can see the agent placing the application into a submission box labeled Carrier Submission, representing the moment when the documentation is officially sent to the carrier for review. At this stage, the application has moved from conversation and documentation into the carrier's review process. From there, the next steps typically involve evaluating the submission and continuing the process toward contract issuance if everything moves forward. After the application has been submitted, the next stage takes place within the insurance carrier's review process. As the slide highlights, the carrier conducts an independent review of the information provided in the application. This step helps the carrier evaluate the details that were documented, including the client's financial background, objectives, and the annuity product being considered. You might think of this stage as somewhat similar to an underwriting review in other financial transactions. A separate team within the insurance company looks over the application and supporting documentation to ensure the information provided aligns with the carrier's guidelines. Because this review is handled by a different department within the company, the process remains independent from the original conversation between the agent and the client. During this stage, the team may review the suitability information, the funding details, and the disclosures that were acknowledged within the application. If additional clarification is needed, the carrier may request follow-up information before continuing. The illustration on the slide reflects that idea as well. You can see a suitability review team reviewing documents at a station labeled Suitability Review, which represents the internal evaluation process happening behind the scenes at each carrier. Once this review is complete, the carrier will determine the next steps for the application as it moves closer to a final decision. After the application has been submitted and the carrier review is underway, the next step is monitoring the application as it moves through the process. As the slide highlights, staying engaged during this stage can help keep everything moving forward. One helpful practice is tracking the application status with the carrier, or your upline, so you have visibility into where the case currently stands. Applications may move through several internal steps within the carrier's process, so checking in periodically can help identify whether any updates or additional information may be needed. It's also helpful to communicate updates to the client along the way. Even if there isn't a major change in status, keeping the client informed can help them understand where things are in the process and what they may expect next. The final reminder on the slide is to stay proactive. If the carrier requests clarification or additional documentation, responding promptly can help keep the application progressing toward completion. The illustration on the slide reflects this idea as well. You can see the agent pointing to a trail progress map, showing different checkpoints along the journey. It's a reminder that the application process often moves forward step by step, and staying aware of those checkpoints can help keep the path clear. By monitoring the application and keeping communication open, agents can help ensure the process continues moving forward as the retirement strategy progresses through the carrier's review stages. As the application moves through the carrier's review process, the next milestone is policy issue. This step occurs after the carrier has completed its review and the required funds have arrived according to the instructions provided in the application. At that point, the carrier may move forward with issuing the annuity contract. As the slide highlights, once the contract is issued, it can be helpful for the agent to review the issued policy before meeting with the client. Taking a few moments to look over the contract helps confirm that the details match the information that was submitted during the application process. This preparation can make the next conversation with the client more organized and easier to walk through. Another common step at this stage is scheduling a delivery appointment. This meeting provides an opportunity to review the issued contract with the client, answer any remaining questions, and confirm that they understand the key details of the annuity that was issued. The illustration on the slide reflects that moment in the journey. You can see the agent handing over a document near a sign labeled Policy Issued, representing the point where the contract has been finalized and is ready to be reviewed with the client. Reaching this stage means the application has successfully moved through documentation, submission, and carrier review. The final step now is making sure the client receives and understands the contract that has been issued as part of their retirement strategy. Once the annuity contract has been issued, the next step is the client delivery meeting. This meeting provides an opportunity to walk through the issued policy together and review the key details of the contract. As the slide highlights, the goal here isn't to go through every page line by line, but rather to provide a clear, high-level overview of the contract structure. During this conversation, it can be helpful to revisit a few of the important elements that were discussed earlier in the process. That might include reviewing the contract structure, pointing out the surrender schedule timeframe, and highlighting any riders or features associated with the product. Taking a few minutes to reconnect these elements to the earlier retirement strategy discussion can help the client understand how the issued contract reflects the information that was documented during the application process. The slide also highlights the importance of encouraging questions. The delivery meeting gives clients an opportunity to ask about anything they would like clarified as they review the policy. The illustration on the slide reflects that moment as well. You can see the agent and client sitting together with the contract open on the table, reviewing the document in a relaxed setting. It's a reminder that this meeting is simply about helping the client understand the contract they have received. By walking through the policy in a clear and conversational way, the delivery meeting can help ensure the client understands the structure and key features of the annuity contract that has been issued. After the policy has been delivered and reviewed, another important concept to explain to clients is the free look period. As the slide highlights, most states provide a free look review period for annuity contracts. This time frame gives clients an opportunity to review the issued contract after delivery and confirm that the details match their understanding of the retirement strategy that was discussed. So what does that actually mean in practice? The free look period is a set number of days after the client receives the contract, where they can review the policy and decide whether they would like to keep it. During that time, the client can read through the contract, review the features, and make sure they feel comfortable with how the annuity is structured. If the client decides during that period that the contract does not align with their expectations, they may have the option to return the contract according to the carrier's guidelines during that review window. Because of that, it can be helpful to clearly explain how long the free look period lasts, since the time frame can vary by state and by carrier. The illustration on the slide reflects this moment as well. You can see the client reviewing the contract while standing near a sign labeled Free Look Period. It's a reminder that this stage provides time to review the policy carefully after delivery. Taking a few minutes to explain how the free look period works can help ensure clients understand that they have an opportunity to review the contract and ask questions after receiving the policy. After the policy has been reviewed with the client, the final step in the delivery meeting is typically the policy delivery receipt. As the slide highlights, this document is used to confirm that the contract was delivered and reviewed with the client. During the meeting, the client is usually asked to sign the delivery receipt, acknowledging that they received the policy. This step helps create a clear record, showing when the contract was delivered, and that the client had the opportunity to review the document and ask questions during the meeting. Once the receipt is signed, it's important to maintain a copy within the client's file, along with the other documentation associated with the application and policy delivery. Keeping organized records can help ensure the file reflects the full timeline, from application through delivery. The illustration on the slide reflects that final step in the process. You can see the client and agent shaking hands while the signed document sits on the table, representing the completion of the delivery meeting. At this stage, the retirement strategy process has come full circle, from the initial conversation and application, through carrier review and policy issue, and finally to the delivery of the contract. Documenting the delivery with a signed receipt helps confirm that the client received the policy and that the process has been completed. Now that we've walked through the full application and delivery process, it's helpful to step back and look at the bigger picture. As the slide highlights, following a clear and repeatable process can help create consistency from one client conversation to the next. Each step, from discussing the retirement strategy, to completing the application, to delivering the policy, follows a similar path. When agents approach these conversations with a consistent framework, it can make the process easier for clients to understand as well. Rather than feeling rushed or uncertain about what comes next, clients can see how each step builds on the previous one. Clear communication along the way also plays an important role. Explaining what's happening at each stage, from the application, to the carrier review, to the final delivery meeting, can help clients stay informed and comfortable with the process. The illustration on the slide reflects that journey. You can see signs along the trail marking steps like application, submission, issue, and delivery. It's a reminder that each part of the process leads naturally to the next. Over time, using a consistent approach can also help agents build confidence in how they guide these conversations. When the process is familiar and well understood, it becomes easier to navigate each step clearly and professionally. And that consistency can help create a smoother experience for both the agent and the client, as retirement strategies are discussed and documented. As we wrap up this section of Basecamp, it's helpful to bring the entire process together. Throughout these slides, we've walked through the key steps involved in documenting and submitting annuity business, from beginning the application, to gathering information, to submitting the case, and ultimately delivering the issued contract. As the slide highlights, having a clear and consistent application process can help clients better understand what's happening at each stage of the retirement strategy conversation. When each step is explained along the way, the process tends to feel more organized and easier to follow. Setting expectations, reviewing disclosures, and discussing timelines all play a role in that experience. These conversations help clients understand what to expect as their application moves from documentation to carrier review and, eventually, to policy delivery. The illustration on the slide reflects that journey as well. You can see the path leading toward the mountain horizon, symbolizing the progress made along the way. Each step on the trail represents part of the process that helps guide the conversation forward. Using a consistent framework can also help agents develop a rhythm in how they approach these discussions. Over time, following a structured process can help create clarity for both the agent and the client. And when the steps are clear, the overall experience can feel more organized as retirement strategies are discussed, documented, and delivered.